Welcome back to another Mel 1 Auto Diagnostics video. Today we have a 2011 Nissan Rogue, and the concern with this one is it will not shift out of park. The shifter's completely stuck, even with your foot on the brake pedal. So what I went ahead and did was I scanned the vehicle just to see if there's anything maybe that can give me any sort of direction. But often with these concerns, there is no DTC set by any modules. So what I'm going to do next is actually look at a wiring diagram of the shift lock solenoid. Very simple circuit. You have a 10 amp fuse that feeds into the stop lamp switch. That stop lamp switch will close when you hit your brake pedal, when you press on your brake pedal, sending 12 volts to two different destinations, one being your brake lights and the other being your shift lock solenoid. We have two switches in the stop lamp switch, and we do have brake lights. I did confirm that. So there is a possibility that we actually may have one faulty switch in that stop lamp switch assembly. Very likely. So what we need to do is actually go to the stop lamp switch connector. As you can see on pin 4 there, that's where our voltage bridges over to our shift solenoid that lives under here in this assembly. Hopefully it's not a faulty shift lock solenoid, because that is a costly job for the customer, and a lot of interior components have to be removed to get to it. So we're just gonna check there, make sure that it is sending voltage or not. We want to get those voltage readings with the brake pedal depressed and see what that brake switch is doing. You can also see that there's different connectors in between where we also may have problems. Those connectors are way under the dash. If it comes to it that we do have voltage coming out of the switch, I think my next step would honestly be removing the center console and checking at the shift solenoid connector, because the connectors in between are way more difficult to get to than the shift lock solenoid itself. It may get to that point depending on what we find, so we have to verify our ground and all that stuff if it gets to that point. So we're gonna hook up a meter to just kind of verify our voltages there. All right, so we're at the brake switch now. I've actually just removed the brake switch from the pedal assembly just to kind of get better access to it. I can still manipulate the switches with the little plunger there. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to manipulate that plunger with my pinky. I have my meter hooked up to battery ground, and I'm going to take a test lead into that pin 4 wire that goes to our shift lock assembly. Now, this brake switch actually should be closed when I let go of the plunger, and I completely let go of the plunger here, and I see no voltage coming out of that pin 4. So at this point, I'm almost convinced this switch has gone faulty. I know it's receiving the 12 volts because our brake lights do work, and it only uses that one voltage source. It's only one voltage source going into it that distributes two different paths. What I'm going to do is now switch over to my wire that goes to the stop lamps, and I'm going to release the plunger, simulating depressing of the brake pedal. And when I do that, when I let the plunger go, you can actually see on the meter that switch is actually closing and sending out the 12 volts here. So one half of this switch has to have gone bad, and I have the test here to prove it. Once I press on the plunger again, we lose the voltage, the output voltage, and once I let go of the plunger, we actually do send that voltage back out of the to the stop lamps. So this is a very simple concept here. It's pretty much just a bridge. It has using that same concept, we have two bridges in there. One's working, one's closing the circuit, and the other one's not. But they're all within that one assembly of the brake switch. So the whole brake switch would have to be replaced. Here I have a donor brake switch that I actually had laying around, and I'm back on my pin 4, which is the blue wire, going to my shift lock assembly. So same thing, I'm letting go of my plunger and I have that voltage coming out. So now this switch is actually closing our circuit to our shift lock solenoid. And we have verified that with the meter. And once I press that plunger in, we can see that our voltage returns to 0. And when I release it, we close that switch and put out our battery voltage again. So we're inside the vehicle now with our donor switch installed, and you can actually see that our shifter now works just fine. So now we know that everything after the switch into the solenoid is good, including the solenoid itself. That was my fear going into this, because we often do see them go bad. But here this one's working and it's fine. We're gonna give the customer the option to buy a new brake switch. We obviously don't want the customer driving away with a brake switch that I just had laying around. Pretty simple circuit to diagnose, and it's just a switch. I mean, all it does is close circuits. When you press your brake pedal, that plunger comes out and actually closes those two switches. And when you bring your pedal back in, it pushes against that plunger and it opens the circuits. So this is a fix. Customer will be happy, and I hope to see you guys in the next one.